This is Geoffrey of and welcome back to Medieval 2 Total War. We are defending a river crossing with 1,800 Englishmen. We are facing 20,000 Saracens. There's going to be a little bit of lag. This is what some would call a survival battle. It can also be called a case of abusing the AI. The English are defending with a lot of archers and artillery, but the motivation for this battle came from an Antioch campaign. I had played one of my first campaigns in which I was facing the Mongols, and the only way to stop them was in battles such as these. Here an enemy unit has managed to cross the river, but have been stopped. Carcass shots have been thrown at the enemy. There's now fear among the enemy, disgust because of the carcass shots. The enemy general has been slain. Another aspect for the motivation of this battle was that the AI sometimes can do very poorly in situations such as these, and of course many players learned that if you can do it this way and that way, it can cause hundreds of casualties. So here's an extreme case scenario. So that was the second reason for this type of battle. So something the AI does that the human player would not do is that it can concentrate a lot of units in a small area, and then in that case with enough firepower, the human player can cause devastating casualties. Here's another good hit from the catapult. As you see, the catapults are doing very well. They have a straight line of fire at the approaching enemy. The bombers are at an angle. There was no room for all the artillery in the center. We only have 3 melee units, 3 units of English knights. They are at the shore just where the enemy might be able to cross the ford. They are the only melee units. And the firepower of the English is devastating. Their long bows are decimating the approaching enemy. Here one enemy unit has managed to get to our side of the river despite the rebolt fire, despite the archer fire. However, they're isolated, and we're almost at a break. It looks like they are wavering. The other units have abandoned them, and they break and retreat back to the other side of the river. The only thing that could go wrong in a way in such a battle is that if enemy units manage to get a hold to this side of the river, on the back here, and they break, and they will try to route through our lines. What that does is it causes the crews of the siege engines to go into melee with them, and so they stop firing their siege engines. That's the only bad thing that will happen, so that's something that should be avoided at all costs. This is why we have the melee infantry near the front. So many enemy units have been routed. Many are also affected by the carcass shots thrown at them. The cannon, the bombers are in a bit of an angle. They don't have an ideal shot. It's difficult to fit all those siege engines, so they're firing to the Saracen units here on the right. And the catapults are firing at the main body of the Saracens approaching straight ahead here. They have been all routed. So a large body of our enemy has been routed. Here's some cavalry coming our way.
The enemy general has no honor.
Break.
He flees the field
and
of battle
rout.
and abandons his men.
So do not complain, please, that the FPS is slow, that there are too few frames per second. When you have these massive battles with 4, 5 or 6, in this case 8 full armies in medieval 2, don't expect too much. So here's another enemy cavalry unit. They managed to get through, but they break against the stakes.
The field of battle.
One annoying thing is that if you don't pay close attention to the siege engines, sometimes they move forward. And so here the catapults have reached the stakes. An enemy general has fallen. 2 enemy generals have fallen. Here's the other one. Now the enemy cavalry unit has made it across the river, and they've charged our stakes. They are now breaking. 2 more enemy generals have been slain. Now you may be wondering, why is it that the enemy is not making any kills? The enemy doesn't have a lot of archers. I think they had a few, but not that many. They mostly had melee units, melee cavalry, melee infantry. This is just an extreme case scenario. In reality, it would have been difficult to achieve something so extreme. Especially the Mongols with all their archers would have caused very high casualties. So in my Antioch campaign, this was one of my first campaigns in medieval 2, an army defending the river crossing would do well against the Mongols, but it would be almost wiped out by the enemy. The river is strewn with the charred bodies of our enemy. And of course, one great thing that the English have is they can lay down stakes. The Turks can also do that. Very useful attribute of the English and the Turkish armies. Particularly English. So the battle is near the end. Basically all Saracens managed to do is get some cavalry over to our side, and they perished against the stakes.
The enemy general has no honor. He flees the field of battle and abandons his men.
A 6th enemy general has been slain. The arquebusiers were useful in lowering the morale of the approaching army. You can hear them firing. Our enemy seems to be doing very little except routing en masse. The numbers are working against them. The numbers of routing soldiers cause fear among their own ranks, causing more units to flee, to rout. And their high concentrations makes them an easy target for missiles. The notoriously inaccurate trebuchets are firing long shots that land wide. There is quite a demand on micromanaging the siege artillery. Since the enemy units are constantly routing, the
enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their men.
Targets have to be constantly changed. The AI has so many units that now and then some manage to make some progress. Here the ones moving forward are affected by the carcass shots, and the bombard shots cause them to break. So now they're all routing. So we have 30 seconds left from this battle. The AI still has units, they are moving forward, but the outcome of this battle is a foregone conclusion.
We are victorious! The day has ended and spared our enemy even greater defeat. May there be many more such victories.
So a clear victory, since we killed 500 men for each one we lost. The catapults did very well, the other siege artillery did reasonably well, the archers did fine. Overall, everyone but the melee infantry managed to do their fair share for this victory. Thank you for watching.